Why would a country suddenly put tariffs on something as ordinary as vegetables? And what if this is not even about vegetables at all? Because tonight, Canada has launched a move that could reveal how the governments are preparing for a far more uncertain global trade environment. Hi, this is Navya Bal and you're watching TimesXP. The Canadian government has announced a provisional 10% tariff on many imported canned vegetables. That measure takes effect almost immediately and could remain in the place for almost 200 days. At the first glance, it sounds very simple. Protect the local farmers, support domestic processes, defend Canadian jobs. But there's where the story gets even more interesting. The tariffs do not apply on imports from United States, Mexico, Israel, Chile, and several other developing nations. That means Canada is not shutting its door completely. Instead, it is carefully targeting specific trade flows that officials believe that are putting pressure on the domestic producers. And that raises a big question. What exactly is Canada worried about? According to government officials, there are growing concerns that exporters locked out of the other markets may now be searching for a new destination. In other words, products that may no longer be easily inserted in the countries would start flooding alternative markets like Canada, and that changes the whole dynamic of it. Because this is happening at a time when the global trade is already under strain. Tariffs, supply chain disruptions, economic nationalism, and geopolitical competition all together are reshaping how the countries think about their food security. This is not just a debate about the Canadian peas, corn, or beans. When Canada says that nearly half of its preserved fruits, vegetable consumptions depend just on the imports. So for the fresh vegetables, import dependence is even higher. That vulnerability is now the policymakers that ask whether the food affordability and the food security can truly be separated. However, there is another side of the story. Economists note that the United States, Canada's largest suppliers of canned vegetables, is expected from this tariff. Yes, that could help to shield the customers from immediate price increase, but only for now. Because if the global trade tensions continue to escalate, temporary measures have a habit of becoming permanent realities. And yet another mystery remains. The lobbying groups that pushed for these protections is relatively new and little to know. Now, the sudden influence is that it sparks questions in the political circles about who is shaping Canada's trade agenda behind the scenes. So tonight, Canada's tariff decision may look like a small agricultural policy, but beneath the surface, it signals something much larger. Yes, a world where the nations are becoming more protective, more cautious, and increasingly focused on the security, their supply chains, and most importantly, and if the trend continues, today's tariffs on the canned vegetables may make the lives of vegetarians a big warning. So what are your thoughts on this? Make sure to comment down below.